really funny to be back here. I used to work here. I used to do very useful stuff for all these useful clients around the world to make these useful products. And they want these, and everything I did was useful. And to be honest, I don't really care about useful stuff. I really don't. I like nonsense. So this is really a title for me. And I used to study nonsense. Does this thing work? Yes. Things like this. Does anybody remember this website? Brilliant, defiant dog. That's a button, and you can click the button. Now guess what happens when you click the button? Nothing happens, indeed. So I was looking at this site and I loved it, and I clicked the button, I clicked it again, and I clicked it another time, and another time. And then, of course, I'm a nerd, so I viewed Source. And there I saw Google Analytics. And I saw that he was analyzing clicks. So I emailed the guy who made this thing and I asked him, do you have any statistics about this thing? Oh yes, yeah. Everybody clicks 30 times. Amazing, this thing. And nothing happens, but they just keep pushing that button. I love things like this. I also love art. So for instance, this Onkawara. Does anybody know Onkawara? So you all know this, this trend of quantifying self, right? Now we have mobile phones to quantify ourselves, right? To keep track of everything that we do and share it with Google and the American government and people, things like that. But the person who actually started that was Onkawara. He was an artist. And I think in the 60s he started drawing date paintings. So this is painted by hand. This is not done with a computer. And every day, or almost every day, he used to paint the date. And he used to draw on these paper maps the route that he walked. Which we do nowadays as well with our GPS devices, right? Maybe you know the app. Well, there was this art project in the UK, of course, which was GPS dicks, where you were supposed to walk around town in the shape of a giant dick. Well, that's a bit Onkawarish. I really like him. A fantastic artist. Whenever you see work of him, go to the museum to check it out. It's incredible, the work that he's done, because he used to do it by hand and not let the device do it for him, which is actually more clever if you ask me. This is a very nice project. I love this one. I came home one day in the evening and there were all these ugly QR codes on my wall. A big triangle, and my wife was standing next to it and she was smiling, and look at this beautiful wall full of QR codes. What the fuck are these ugly things doing on my wall? I hate QR codes. I think they're the most ugly thing that ever happened. And then they were on my wall. And then I had to download a QR reader and see what this was. And it turned out that these friends of mine, they created this website for me to, well, it was a kind of a joke, the Vasilis. It was the Rijksmuseum for Vasilis, but on the website itself there were these QR codes instead of links. So if you go to this website, you have to get out your phone, take a picture and see what's behind it, and then you go to a beautiful work on the Rijksmuseum. So my kid, for a while, thought that QR codes were wonderful, because when you take a photo of it, there's this beautiful picture of a swan, or this beautiful Japanese painting, or something like that. And then we were on the road, and there was this van of a contractor. He said, oh, QR code, I want to see it. And there was this non-mobile optimized website, WordPress site, or something like that for a contractor. Okay, so this is the kind of nonsense I like, and I used to write about it. Does this thing work? So I created this website because, as you remember, I used to work here and I used to make this useful stuff, so I wanted to create this website where I could think about nonsense. I love nonsense. And I used to write these articles. I designed it and I liked it. Back then this looked good. We didn't have web fonts, so Georgia is nice. But then I thought something's missing, and I added this thing. Well, it's not really true that web fonts weren't there, because this is a web font. This is the Bagaros. It's an incredible font without spacing. So every next font is laid on top of the other. So that thing over there says Rijksvasilis, but it's layers of fonts on top of each other. I think it's wonderful that somebody created that, open sourced it, made it available to everybody. And the other thing that I like is nobody else found it. I'm the only one using it. It's incredible, isn't it? So I was really happy with this thing. I went to a Frontiers conference, and there was this talk about WebGL. And they showed this tank with all the fishes. That was one of the first WebGL things. And then the guy who presented it, he said, when you press the L on your keyboard, lasers come out of the eyes of the sharks. We should have more lasers on the web. So what I did was, when you press the L when you visit this website, oh, fuck this thing. Lasers come out of the eyes of the Bagaros. I think this is incredible. I would really like to spend my time creating stuff like this. This is all CSS, of course, with some, some border, box shadows, things like that. This thing doesn't work. Let me get another one. This one works. Yeah. Okay, so I like creating stuff. I used to create stuff I used to create physical stuff. So this is one of the artworks that I created while I was still in art school. Back then, I actually said I will never touch a computer again. That lasted for about 3 months. And then I didn't actually leave the computer anymore. But I really like creating things for the web. The web is much nicer to work with than real life. Let me illustrate that by using this illustration. So you might know this illustration. This is in one of the Smashing books. It's made by Mike Kass. I think it's a really beautiful illustration. I really liked it. My wife liked it as well. We had this very boring wall in our house, so I decided to paint this onto our wall. Now this is actually quite a lot of work. It's not really don't just do that, right? You need stencils, and you need paint, and things like that. And then after a while, it looked like this. The developers among you might say, wow, that's beautiful. But the designers among you say, fuck, it's off the grid. And indeed, this is not good, right? It should be like this. And I only saw it when I was done, and this is really true. This looks good, this doesn't look good. So I had to repaint the wall, and then get Illustrator, find out how that works again, and make these stencils a little bit smaller, and then send them over to the laser cutter who lives on the other side of Amsterdam. Ask my kid to please get off my car, stop drawing on it, so I can drive to the other side of town, pick up these stencils, and then start painting every single circle back onto the wall again. As you can understand, this is a lot of work. It took me a month, and it was there. I think I still enjoy it. It's nice that it's there, but that was so much work. And then I was done, and I thought, okay, now I need to thank Mike Kass, because he made this illustration. I just stole it from him. So I thought, okay, how can I thank him? I'll just turn this into a website. So got a domain, semanticresponsivillustration.com, and I used web technology to create this illustration again. Now, let's assume that we think this illustration is too big. on the web, I don't have to order stencils and run around town and get things done. I simply, because I used the right units, the only thing I need to do is make the unit a little bit smaller, and there you have it. One font size on the right element with the right unit, and this is it. It gets smaller when you need it to be smaller. I really like that about the web, the flexibility, the fact that it's so flexible, and you can just mold it when you need it, and you can change it, you can adapt it to any need. For instance, when your screen is smaller, you can adapt the illustration. With our wall, that would be a bit hard, right? If we wanted an extra door, this wouldn't work in real life, and this works on the web. I think this is fantastic. This is why I really, really, really love the web, that we can add these layers, like Sibren said, add these layers to enhance the experience for whoever is watching. And this works, of course, because one of the principles behind the web is this is for everyone. Tim Berners-Lee designed the web with the idea that it should be there for everyone, it should work for everybody. Regardless of what crappy device you use or what fantastic device you use, it should just work. Which is unique. No other media ever had this. And so you can do amazing stuff with it, but it also means that you have to think about, well, less capable browsers. Older people amongst you might remember a browser that doesn't support border radius, for instance. So what would that illustration look like? Should it look like this? I think not. This is not what my Gus intended. So I decided, instead of using border radius, if you open this illustration with Opera Mini, you get to see this. A description of the illustration, balls, two connected balls, a blue ball, but you get to see the beautiful colors, right? The colors that he intended, and you get to decide what it looks like, which I think is actually pretty nice. And people with Internet Explorer are really lucky because that doesn't support HCSL color notation, so they get to guess the colors as well. And if you're a real good designer, you get this beautiful illustration written out for you. I wish we had something like Font Family Poetic, where we had balls, two connected balls, a blue ball, a blue ball. Unfortunately, we don't have that. But I think this is fantastic, that we can create stuff that works this way, that we can really, really enhance things or degrade things if necessary. Okay, back to nonsense. So one of the last things I did here, don't tell the bosses, was I created this website. This is actually a website. And it's a very long website. If you scroll down, this could be an animation of a scrolling website. It looks like this all the time. And I created it with a colleague here. Unfortunately, he's not here, Maarten Kappert, brilliant, brilliant designer. He had this beautiful website, Minimalissimo, which back in the day was actually pretty shocking because he had white space between articles. And back then, we didn't have white space. We cramped everything together to fit within the fold. And he had 140 pixels of white space, which was huge back then. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. Okay, so we were thinking about what is a minimal site. So how can we make it more minimalistic? And we came up with this one. And what this website does, around midnight, when it's really dark outside, it generates a white image of a random size. And it posts it like a blog onto this white page. And it keeps going on. And it has been going on for quite a while. So everybody who visits this site, of course they don't get it, because it looks like this. And this is the source. So you see, you can link to each image if you want to. You can click on it to see the individual image. And of course, it has the alt attribute, because otherwise the link wouldn't work, right? For people with disabilities. But the other nice thing, of course, is now that I have a description of the image, of course, blind people can enjoy it now. They can probably enjoy it better than we, right? They get something, which is quite unique. But also, I can use it now as a Twitter feed. So there is this Twitter feed. You can subscribe to it, and you get a white image every morning when you wake up, which is nice. There's a Flickr account as well. The good thing about Flickr is that they have this feature, auto tagging, and every image gets tagged with minimalism. And there are some people who automatically favorite everything with minimalism. So every morning they get this white image. I love robots. They're so stupid. Okay, so when you scroll down, you get these white images. And then you get down there and pages of white images. Go on forever. Okay, so this, the thing that I really like about this, of course, I like it. It's a funny concept. But suddenly, I found out how to create images. I didn't know that I could give my server, I could tell my server to generate images. That was a new thing for me. I had never done that before. And then I thought, okay, now I can create a white image. Maybe I can create colors. And that was actually something that interested me, because I was becoming a lecturer. And I was going to teach students about design, about graphic design. And I didn't know anything about colors. I just don't get colors. I don't understand them. So I thought, why don't I just create this bot that, well, this is red, not black. So why don't I create this thing that generates images, every day one image of a colored rectangle on a colored background. And then when I keep looking at these things, one day I will understand color. Well, didn't really work out. I still don't really get it, but I did understand how to create, generate images and how to generate rectangles. And then I thought, okay, so SVG is a new thing that's cool. So I can generate rectangles now. Can I generate blobs? And yes, I can generate blobs. And this was actually me trying to figure out how these things, Bezier curves, how they work. I didn't know, so I thought they were something magical. It turns out they're just numbers. And when they're numbers, you can actually generate them with random, and then you get random blobs, which I think is wonderful. I really like random. So they're just numbers, and if you don't add crazy numbers, they will look like blobs. So this was nice. And then I read an article about ratios, that there are these several ratios that are beautiful. For instance, the ISO, the paper format, that is a very beautiful ratio, because if you fold the paper, it will be the same ratio, which is unique. Not every American paper doesn't have that. So Vignelli, he actually has a whole page where he rants about the ugliness of American standards. So I thought, let's investigate these ratios. So I generated blobs that turn into rectangles via colors, and then all these different ratios to see if I can understand if these ratios are beautiful or not. Well, yeah, this looks nice, but I guess it will look nice as well if I didn't use exactly that number, but used another number. It might look nice as well. Now, you might have noticed that here there's always a description of the image. So it says an almost gray, very dark blue blob that turns into a very saturated, dark lime background. So I think this is important. It's important that everybody can access your content, just like Sibrin said. But so I decided to add this description to every image. Now, of course, I don't wake up in the morning and start typing a description of all these images. I let my computer do that for me. But how do you do that? So if I used RGB to generate these colors for me, this wouldn't be possible. I really don't know what color this is. Does anybody know this? What color is this? You're all nerds. Somebody should know. Dark orange. It could be true. I don't know. This is hard. It doesn't translate to something human. This is solely made for computers. This is not for people. It's not for us. But we have this beautiful hue, saturation, and lightness, HSL, which actually translates to something that we can understand. This is the hard part, of course, the hue. Does anyone know what hue 228 would be, somewhere on the color circle?
Reddish?
You should always say greenish, because green is the biggest on HSL. It's a big chance that it will be green, but it's blue. Blue, and it's a pretty saturated blue. That's it. Not very light, not very dark, it's just in the middle. It's blue, saturated blue. We can understand this, and of course, how we can understand this, we can just translate this, let the computer translate this to a human readable text. And so, there you have it. This is generated by the computer. I really like this. And so I wrote this a little script, put it on GitHub, tweeted about it. Then Matthias Bijnens retweeted my tweet. And then half an hour later, somebody said, did a pull request. They translated, it was written in PHP, they translated it to Python. Wow, this is amazing. Oh, fuck, how do I do this pull request thing? I didn't know how that worked, but found that out. And then half an hour later, somebody translated it to JavaScript. I thought that was wonderful. But I also kept thinking, isn't this ridiculous? Who needs a translation of color, right? If you're blind, it's not useful. You don't know what color is. Until I met Leonie Watson and I asked her, does it make any sense? She is blind, but she lost her eyesight when she was about 20 years old, I think. And she was really, really happy with this because she has memory of color. So she remembers what color looks like. I can also imagine that an art director, I used to have a colorblind art director, and he insisted on choosing the colors. That was funny. I can imagine that he could use something like this for a presentation to explain the color, right? So this is, and I think it's really important to do this stuff, right? To think about other people with other abilities. The other thing you might see is that there's this buy this print button. You can buy all these things, and you can order them and put them onto your wall and enjoy them as printed stuff, because that's also something that we tend to forget, that the web is not just visible on a projector or on screens, it's also visible on paper when you print it, or on a dye bond, whatever that is. Okay, now I added a little useful intermezzo, but it is still useless. This is about the target selector. So I have all these pages. Every night they generate new images. So these become very, 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 very long pages with these huge images. Incredibly long pages. So scroll. It just keeps scrolling. These are, I don't know, 800 images now. So I can imagine that, or this is not the ideal layout in every situation, right? So I might want something like this, multi-column layout. That would be nice. So how do I do this? Of course, I could just create a new website, or I could use some PHP or some JavaScript to change the layout if I wanted to. But I'm a CSS guy, so I decided to misuse the target selector, right? So you can target stuff in your HTML with this, very useful. It's been working for ages. But you can also style this stuff. So how can we style a whole layout? How can we switch a layout? Well, it turns out you can add an ID to the HTML tag. And now we can switch layout. So it would work like this. You have this URL, you have the ID here. You can say the body inside a targeted HTML element should have multiple columns of not smaller than 15 EM, which is nice, right? It works. So you get this very simple layout switcher. You can misuse or abuse the HTML element for that. And it looks like this, which is nice in certain situations. But I can imagine that sometimes you want to see this. All of them, right? One big layout with all the images together. So what element can I abuse? Well, of course, we can't add another ID to the HTML element, so we need to use another element, the body. We can use the body for that. So we target the body, and then we do this flex magic. Works fine. And then it looks like this. Some minimalists among you, you probably hate these images. You have pain in your eyes, and you say, give me the text-only version. I really want to see only this. I don't want to see your ugly colors. I want to see a big page with only text. Well, this is possible as well, but now we're out of free elements, right? We have the HTML element. We abuse the body element for our layout switching. So do we have to add a wrapper div? I fucking hate those things. So no. It turns out we have another element we can abuse for that, and that is, does anybody know? The head, of course. You can add an ID to the head, and you can target the head. I didn't know that. Would that work? Would that work? Yes, it works. So now we can say every SVG element inside a body that's a direct sibling of a targeted head. Wow, that's what this thing said. No SVGs, please, in that case. I think that's fantastic. So I wanted to share this nonsense for you. Don't put this in production. Nobody needs it. And then it looks like this. But now you see, you don't need wrapper divs. Maybe that's the thing we should learn from this intermezzo. Okay, so now I have these generated images every day, but I wanted to see how these things look. So I generated 100 of these images at one time. I created another version of these things that when you visit a page, you get 100 of these images at random. And then when you refresh the page, you get 100 other images. And these are very long pages. And then I thought, okay, so I can sell a poster. What if I add a little bit of CSS to the print style sheet? Maybe I can generate books as well. And that works, actually. So I created this store where you can buy, you can order these books as PDFs. And they get printed. They're actually pretty beautiful. I have a few with me, so if you want to buy one, you can come and see me afterwards. They're pretty nice. Or you can download them, of course, for free. Why not? You don't have to pay for everything. And they look good. It looks like this. You can align things to the left and to the right on on different pages. I did this with Phantom, I guess that's Phantom.js on the server. So these PDFs get generated every night as books. And I had this other thing where I wanted, where I needed blend modes, you know, mixed blend mode, which is fantastic. But Phantom.js doesn't support that, so now I have this thing installed, which is a Firefox version of Phantom.js, and that does support very complex stuff that I never thought I would ever have to do, but alas, that's what I do nowadays. Looks like this, pretty nice. I like these books. The problem, of course, with a book is not accessible. So this website is accessible. Everybody can read or listen to the website, but these books are not. And every now and then I invite speakers over to our university, and I always like to give them a present, so I give them one of my books. And one day we had a blind speaker. I can't give him one of my books, it's useless, really, really useless. So I Googled and I found somebody in the Netherlands who translates these, who prints out books in Braille, which is beautiful. I think it's one of the most beautiful books I created. But this is, of course, a lot of work, right? Now I have to order a different book for different people, which I think is stupid. That's why I really like the web better. I like the websites better than the books. Because of that. So these are the sales statistics. So that's all me who ordered those. Nobody ever buys them. They bought one, yeah. And my mother. Yeah, that was my mother. Okay, so now they have these books. And then I thought, okay, so now we can flip through these books to animate this, but we can also animate this, and it could look like this. Whoa, this. When I was younger and I used to smoke pot, this was, whoa, the most beautiful thing I ever created. And I would look at this for ages and not do anything else ever again. We can do this. We can just keep looking at this. But I don't smoke pot anymore. I'm not really interested in this whoa thing anymore. I want to take a look at this thing and enjoy this state. I like this. So if I put this animation onto a screen that I don't use, I want to be able to enjoy this state. And then when I do a little bit of work or look somewhere else, and I look back 5 minutes later, I want to enjoy this state. So instead of using very fast animations, what I really want, I don't want 50 frames per second, I want 50 frames per day. Right? This is the kind of animation that I'm interested in. Very, very slow animation. You might have seen this thing over here. Ooh, I cannot go there. That has been changing all the while. Every time you look at it, it will look different, but you can enjoy the state because it's a very, very slow animation. So that one changes 100 states in 24 hours. I tried a similar animation of 100 states in 100 years, so a century-long animation. It turns out that even that computer, which is a very, very, very fast computer, just couldn't handle it. It crashed. How do you know if a century-long animation crashed? Right? That's very hard to test, because did it not change, or is it this slow? Is it supposed to not look like it changed? But it really crashed this thing. It turned on somehow, I don't know what it is, but very, very slow CSS animations. That's not what the web is optimized for. But it's actually something I really enjoy. Okay, other stuff that I created. So I started, I like the fact that it is 13:37 every hour somewhere in the world. So I decided to document this on this website. So this is the complete documentation of 13:37 across the world, and it gets updated every hour. And then I had this website, and I thought, well, it looks nice, but I want it in book form as well. So I decided to generate a monthly magazine of the documentation of 13:37. I have a few of those with me as well, so if you're interested. You can download them or you can buy them. Nice. Complete documentation. Ordered by date. So this is nice. I created this one, so I was thinking about there's all these doomsday people, right? They say, oh, the world will end in, well, something with a Mayan calendar or anything. So I decided every night to tweet this, that actually it has ended, because they were so certain of themselves, right? The world will end, so it has ended. There are also still a few left. We have some years, so it's not that bad. I like this idea. I don't know what to do with this yet. So in print form, not sure. this will, what, make what?
Make a book.
Yeah. Probably, in a few years. The yearly documentation of the world. Of course, there's a Twitter feed of this one as well. Another one that I really like is the Daily Synonym, which tweets a synonym of yesterday's word every day. And I thought this would stay the same word, right? Synonym of a synonym. It should stay the same thing, but it actually goes all kinds of directions, which I really like. I think this is a funny concept. The website looks like this, but it grows very slowly. And it just uses one font. I like this idea that it is very slow, but I also was very much interested in what will this work, what will this look like. So I decided to fasten things a little bit, create a different version that generates 1,337 synonyms every day. And then it looks like this. So I used a different font, which is an incredible font, which has 140 different weights. So I used it then. So this is one font family. It takes a while to load. And it has, so I used, of course, prime numbers to make this a little bit randomish pattern. Right, prime numbers for every next styling, next weight of the font. And if a word is used more than once, it will get a color. I like this as well. So this is a different approach to the same thing, but it looks nice, right? And I generated huge posters of these every day, so you can buy those as well. Nobody does, of course. So this is my web house is just keep getting bigger and bigger. All these silly posters and books. Okay, now there's this thing. The word fun is a synonym of the word play, and the word play is a synonym of the word maneuver, and the word maneuver is a synonym of the word head. The word head is a synonym of the word question. Are there any questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
What's your next project?
Well, at the moment I'm trying to emulate badly drawn lines with SVG, which is pretty hard. So I found this work of art where there's so many great, beautiful works of art with right, when you push the pencil a little bit harder and a little bit, so I tried to create that, which is pretty hard, but I'm getting there. That's what I'm working on at the moment. Very useful stuff.
You can turn a very long paper form as well.
Yeah. White books. These would be white books. Yeah.
One on the toilet paper.
Toilet paper.
That's nice. Yeah. My wife wants umbrellas with these things as well. Yeah. So yeah.
Have you thought about 3D printing all these generated things? It gives you all new damage?
Yeah. I am actually thinking about a few other ways. For instance, these blobs that turn into rectangles. I'm not really thinking about 3D printing. I'm thinking about accessibility. So if I create a work of art of these things to put on your wall, how can you make this thing accessible without being annoying, right? I could make it read it out every now and then, which would be very, very annoying, right? You're just sitting there working and your wall starts talking to you. I'm thinking, but I don't know how to make this yet. You could create, of course, a big plate which is warmer on one side. So if you give every color a different temperature, then you can create these warmy things. Of course, this would be inaccessible for people with eyesight until we put on something like infrared goggles, which would be very nerdy. So I think I should make this. Yeah.
You could add a QR code.
A QR code, of course. Yeah, yeah. Very good idea. Thank you. Other brilliant suggestions? No more questions? Okay, thanks.